Alright, this is an example of one of my more favorite areas to run. I made a video, and it kind of depends on the time of the year, but there's a time I ran as much as like 144 stops an hour, or I had a pace of 144 stops an hour, and I wasn't able to maintain that for like, hours at a time. But when you have good density and you're dumping 2 or 3 cans a minute, it's really easy to see how you can hit that higher number. And you'll notice how this neighborhood is really good about cart placement. Yeah, they got it out to the curb. I'm not blocked by too many cars parked on the curb. The wheels are facing the house, so when I tip the can, it empties completely. Now, if a can is backwards, where the lid unfolds into the hopper as opposed to away from the can, all the trash would roll over the lid. See how the trash goes under the lid when it opens? Now, if it's backwards, the trash will sit on the lid, and sometimes you have to watch it more carefully and shake it. And you're spending more time trying to get the can to empty out all the trash because the lid is holding onto it. When everyone's doing it the correct way, it's very easy to hit those higher numbers. And you'll notice I'm not I'm not breaking a sweat. Like, I'm not like actively slamming on the accelerator and then burning up my brakes, racing to each stop. All it is me being consistent. The one thing I've gained from experience is I'm able to extend the arm as I approach the can. A new user, they have to do one action at a time. So they have to come to a stop, and then they start another action, then they extend the arm, and then they stop, and then they close the grips. I can extend and close the grips at once while applying the brakes. So by the time the truck comes to a full stop, I'm able to grab the cart and start to dump it. That takes some practice. In the 10 years I've been doing garbage, I've probably dumped a couple 100,000 cans. So I've gotten a little proficient. And when neighborhoods are putting it out correctly, you'll notice I'm not having to turn my head a lot. Like when the carts are close to an obstacle, that's when I have to kind of turn back and look carefully. Because we evolved to have stereo vision. We have 2 eyes to get stereo vision. And when you're looking at a mirror, you lose that. You lose that sense of depth. Like you don't have as many cues to show you depth perception. And when you have to navigate around an obstacle, that's when I kind of have to crank my head around to see how close I am to mailboxes or poles or cars, or the bumpers. But this is real nice. All the trash is in the cart, so I'm not having to pull the brake, get out, get my gloves, and handle some garbage. And again, I said it in a different video, it's worth repeating. See how I'm having to, it's hard to judge the depth of that finger between the 2 carts. And I had enough distance between that cart and the pole, but sometimes I don't trust my mirror. There we go. But as I was saying, I'm not having to get out and reload stuff or move carts around. All that stuff takes time. Yeah. So I got focus a little bit. It's not quite 7:30 in the morning, but this is about the time where people are backing out of their driveways. So whenever I go in reverse, I always want to be real careful that I check my mirrors and check my monitor, because you don't know if someone's backing out of a house behind you. So if you're trying to back out away from a cul-de-sac's curb to finish your turns, you don't want to be doing that when someone's backing out of their driveway. Because they might look at the garbage truck and think, oh, the garbage truck is past my driveway, so I'm good to back out. And then, you know, they don't realize you're a long vehicle that needs to back up to complete a turn. So it's just one more thing to be mindful about. You know, it's one thing to be mindful of your driving habits, but you kind of have to be conscientious of other people's driving habits. You know, it's like, oh, it's 7:30 in the morning, they're just getting out of the house. Maybe they're running a little bit late, so they're in a little bit more of a hurry. You know, so they're moving faster, and they're smaller than you. It's really easy to get caught in a blind spot, particularly with these mirrors, like these side view mirrors. They're nice and big, and they're great to see stuff coming up behind you, but it's really easy to lose an object behind that mirror. So as you're approaching an intersection, if someone paces their car to your truck and they're in that blind spot, they will travel in that blind spot up until they get to an intersection with you. And more than once, that's scared me. And I know I've heard multiple co-workers in the past had the same thing happen. You know, vehicles behind that mirror, and you and the vehicle are traveling at a pace where it keeps them in that blind spot, and then yeah, they surprise you. Usually happens with the left side view mirror. You know, it's this big rectangle that's able to hide objects. So something to be careful about if you're just starting to drive a side load truck, or any truck for that matter. Side load in particular though, because you're driving on the right hand seat. You know, it's not a conventional seat. Like, you're sitting on the curb side as opposed to the left side. Yeah, if you're watching, you can kind of keep track of like how many cans, or you can back up and watch it again. But watch the time code and see how many carts I've dumped in a minute, and then times that by 60. So if I did 2.5 carts in a minute, times 60, that'd be 120. That's like 100. That's like 150. So I'd be pushing close to 150 stops an hour if I was able to maintain that everywhere. But we don't have every house. Like, if you have every house, then it's easier to hit those marks. But 2 cans an hour, there's going to be some, or 2 cans a minute. That's going to be, I'm sure, I should look for that address closer. One of them was not out. We got kids playing, so that's a big priority on like your attention. Like, I'm watching, make sure I don't get close to the bumper. I'm letting the parent know by waving at them. I'm like, yes, I see you, and I see your kids. Because, yeah, I know if it's me, I'm like hyper alert. If I got kids zipping around and a garbage truck approaching, yeah, I'd be a little bit more alert. Oh, I'm actually, oh, you know what? That just forward to my left, that house has had an issue with extras lately. We've gotten them a second cart. And it's like, man, they might need a third cart. They just can't get it all in their carts. There's always a little bit of extra. And then we have another stop up here. He's every other week. Some people are like, oh, I'll save a couple bucks on my service. I'll go every other week. But then every other week, they'll have like extra. And it's like, well, you know, we charge for trash outside the car. You know, so it's like, oh, we're going to save money, but then we're going to just have more trash. It's not bad this week. You know, his cart is definitely full, but at least it's not on the ground. So I don't charge extra for that. I don't like if the lid's a little bit open, you know, okay, so be it. But yeah, there's been times like go to the stops that are every other weeks. It's not enough service. See, dang it. I can't leave it on the ground. That's one of those where I'm not a fan of that. You know, it's one thing if they have it all bagged and you can tip it and send it, but if it's like loose trash on top, like I can't leave it on the ground because they're gonna say, well, the garbage man left a mess. It's like, well, you kind of set a booby trap for me. Like if just because you're able to create a Jenga tower on top of your garbage can with all your trash, and the second I touch it, it falls. I don't know if that's really my fault. And I didn't charge him extra for that, because if we charged him extra, he'd be like, well, it was all in the cart. It's like, well, dude, then it becomes an argument. And I'll spare the office employee that phone call. But if it keeps happening, it's going to be like, you need to go to like every week service. Checking my left, I got a lady walking trash out to her cart for some last minute stuff. I see that in my mirror. I might be able to, I need to do a 3-point turn. I got a white car way down at the end of the block that's probably going to be approaching. And I might be able to back up and finish my 3-point turn by the time yep, I got time. Checking my left. Little girl's setting trash out. Looks like she's putting it in the cart. That's good. That house has had a habit of like just putting some last minute trash out on the ground. So that's not really how I wanted it done. Oh, there's that white car. Alright. Let's put that up a little bit higher so all she has to do is, yep, there she is. Wave. She's not a waver, and that's okay. I'm like, that's fine. I'm a waver, not everyone else is, and that's okay. You might be thinking, hey, that can's not yours. Yeah, it is. We bought the routes. Not all the cans got swapped out. I should probably put it in the notes. It needs to be swapped. Sometimes customers are pretty good about saying, hey, I haven't gotten an ACE card yet. And that's one of them that just slipped by. Oh boy, feel a little tired. Alright, so I'm going to be rolling up to 2 hours on the route. I shot some earlier when it was dark. And then I paused. So I can get here. The sun's up. Well, it's not out though. We got a lot of overcast. But you can see it now in the daylight. And then you can see this neighborhood where there's really good cart compliance. Just to get a little difference. But rolling up to 2 hours. We're probably 3 or 4 minutes away from 2 hours on routes. And then we're going to be at... we got 4 minutes yet, so I can probably knock out 6 more cans. I'm gonna go until let me see. I got 3 minutes. 3 minutes until 2 hours. So I'll have these 2 stops done. So I'm going to be at 192. That's not bad. We're going to be a little bit short of 100 stops an hour for 2 hours, but we'll bump that average up. So we're not doing too bad. All right, well, that's 15 minutes. You kind of get the idea. Stop recording.